Gotta have the hedgehog in focus. Okay, now hopefully I'm in focus because I'm gonna be really upset if I watch this video and I'm blurry. Okay, camera. Hello, hello, hello. So I've seen people doing a fun kind of themed video called the Autumnal Starter Pack, and I had to do it. I love fall. We finally have fall weather, guys, in Missouri, and it'll probably last for 3.5 more days. So I had to get this video in. It's my favorite season. So I am so excited to give you some books, but also some movies and some items to help make this fall just, autumn's the best. It's so great. It's such a good time of year for reading. So let's get into it. I have 9 books for you. We're going with more of a cozy vibe, less horror. First, we have Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes. So you don't need to read Legends and Lattes to understand this one, and I read it recently and it was just a good old time. We have a cozy fantasy with orcs and like dwarves and skeletons, and you just have this like chill, very low stakes sea town with like books and like bakery food, and it was a moment. I loved it. We also get a little sprinkle of lesbian romance. I would have liked more than a sprinkle, extra sprinkles if you will, but still lovely. It's good representation, and if you're not in love with the romance genre, it doesn't overshadow the rest of the book and the plot and the characters. They're just cutie patooties all around. Second, we have Howl's Moving Castle by Diane Wynne Jones. Now, I grew up being a fan of Studio Ghibli's version, so I was curious to read this to see what was the same and what was different, and it is eerily similar in certain ways and wacky, goofy different in other ways. So be prepared if you're a fan of the movie. Hal is from Wales in the book, and so I think this is a fun blend of like old and new, you know, that familiar element if you grew up watching the Ghibli movie, and some surprise little fun twists that just are its own unique thing. It makes it a different experience for sure. We got Witches and Wizards, we got Found Family. If you're not familiar with Howl's Moving Castle, you have my girl Sophie, who gets cursed by a witch into like looking really old, and she's like, well, guess I look like a granny now. I'm gonna ditch this hat shop and just do my own thing. She ends up encountering some quirky, adorable, ridiculous characters. Third, we have Spindles End by Robin McKinley. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. You got that fairy tale narrative element. That's a lot of fun. And if you haven't read Robin McKinley, she does such a great job of like really blending the familiar elements of what she's retelling with her new elements, which are quirky and fun and funny and work on its own. It's very much a vibe, very atmospheric and just fun, just a good read. You just have a good ass time. And what more can you ask for from a reading experience when you're holed up indoors? I just think this is a good time. And also the middle bit I think is a little bit slow, but I think fall is the time where we have a little bit more patience for the slow and we can really meander in the world and hanging out with these characters and stuff, and it reminds us that we don't have to be hustling and grinding all the time. So check it out. Check all of these out. I'm recommending them, so they're good. Number 4, Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahiran. So this is a French Renaissance-esque setting. Yes, love it. Love me a good Parisian moment in fantasy. And we have a witch and witch hunter, enemies to lovers romance. We also have the tropes of a marriage of convenience and the one bed trope. This is sometimes labeled as young adult, but there's sexy times in it. So this is new adult category. what else is there to say? Oh, it has a cool magic system. But ultimately, it's about, for me, you know, like we have the like world building that gives it a real moment, but it also just has my favorite tropes for characters and romances. And you have the prickly stoic dude, and you have this cool ass witch girl, and I don't know, it was a good moment. It was a good vibe. And it is part of a trilogy, I believe, but I've only read the first one, and it's a good time. Like you could kind of end it there if you wanted. So you don't have to worry about the commitment of other books if you don't feel like going down that road. Number 5, we have Everlost by Neil Shusterman. And I actually have the opposite comment to Serpent and Dove for this one, which is it is a trilogy. I recommend you read the trilogy. Fall is the great time for sequels. And I think the story gets better as it progresses into books 2 and 3. Now, it is young adult, but on the younger end of young adult, reading wise. So it can take a minute, I think, for an older person to get into it, but very interesting. I read this a long time ago too, but we got kids navigating the ghosty realms, and you have just such interesting world building and such intriguing philosophical things of like, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be dead? What's the value of continuing on? Da, 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 da. But then just wildly fun characters and setting and the whole kit and caboodle. And yeah, because it's YA, you're gonna read it really fast. So it might feel like a commitment to you, but you're gonna breeze through it so much faster than you might think when you're like, I have to read 3 books. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just get the first one. You'll be good. Number 6, we got Danse Macabre by Stephen King. So this is a non-fiction one. Non-fishy. Non-fiction-y one. And I thought it was just intriguing. I thought it was a cool moment as a girl who's not into the horror genre, hasn't read a lot about it. You get my boy Stephen King's thoughts on the horror genre and the supernatural, and he dives into these different pillars of the genre and also like pop culture and what it means. And it's just really fascinating. The content matter, the subject matter fits the vibe of fall. So what better time to read it? 7, we have Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. Yes. Okay. No. So some of the things I like about this is that you have a less than squeaky clean YA protagonist, which is just refreshing. As a person who grew up with the genre and as an adult who sometimes still reads back in that genre, it can be annoying if like the main character's a little too perfect, innocent, always makes the right choices or is selfless. So you have this character where like she's been raised to marry the evil ruler of their cursed kingdom and is being trained to like sacrifice herself so she can kill the said ruler. You're gonna have some feels about that. Like as a teenager, you have feels about everything. But if that is your backstory, you're gonna have extra feels. You're gonna be angry. You're gonna be cranky. And we get that. And also she gets frustrated and upset with her sister and the unfairness that her sister doesn't have to make this sacrifice and that like the dad seems to favor the sister. And I think it just handled that really well. You got this like really interesting Beauty and the Beast retelling plus some Greek mythology elements. It like you can see the broad strokes of those two things, but like it still stands on its own. Yeah, it's got curses and demons, so it fits the vibe. You got this like mystery element with like what happened to the other girls that were sent to marry this dude. It's got the vibes, it's got the elements, but because I'm a scaredy cat, it doesn't go crazy down that spooky rabbit hole. But you get the vibes, you get the atmosphere, you get the world building. Some people say it's a little bit confusing, but I wasn't thinking too hard in it, so I can't relate. I just was having a good time. Number 8, we have Pneumonia. Okay, number 8, we have Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. So graphic novel. We got pictures for y'all that don't like a lot of the reading. We have a forbidden romance between a hero and a villain. We have a shape-shifting female protagonist, adorable characters with snark, a story that subverts expectations, particularly mine, which is lovely. As a person who reads a lot, that is hard to do. And oof, it made me have feels. It made me have emotions. It was heartwarming. It was heart-hurting. It did too much to my heart. I need to talk to my doctor. Yeah. Oh, and it's queer. It's queer. That's a good time. Yes, indeedy. Number 9, Every Heart a Doorway by, oh, fuck names. Shannon McGuire? Am I saying that right? Oh my god, I get so nervous with these names. Okay. We have a dark fantasy here, novella, just a little guy. So much happens. It's essentially a foster home for kids that ended up in other worlds and then for whatever reason are back on Earth again, and their parents are like, I don't know what to do with this kid. They like fell down a rabbit hole and now they're extra weird. And love that premise. Love the world building. With like each character, you kind of get a sense and like are told a little bit about the world they fell into, and oh, and I think the rest of the series of novellas is like exploring each of those worlds, and I need to get on that wagon because I think I'd really enjoy it. But having just read this one, you can just read this one. It's nice. It's dark. It's got humor. It's got murder, a mystery. It's got interesting world building. It's got trans representation. I think there's so much going on, and this author juggles it all so well. It feels very natural. Sometimes with like a lot of like serious real world topics being discussed, it can feel a little preachy or like clunkily placed in the plot, but this smooth. And now, my friends, we're to the movies and items section of your autumnal starter pack experience. I have 4 movies. I had 5 million more, and then I'm like, I don't really want to edit a long video. Kelly B in her lazy fall era. So sucks for you. I'm gonna give you a 4. Penelope. Oh, such a good movie. I don't know why it's not more talked about or well known. It is such a wholesome, like, and you have a really star-studded cast. You've got James McAvoy, you have Christina Ricci, who also played like Wednesday Addams. You got Reese Witherspoon, you got Russell Brand, like, oh, Peter Dinklage is in it! And he's like a detective journalist with an eye patch. Like, come on. Essentially the premise is that Christina Ricci is from a rich family that back in the day got cursed to where when someone in the family would have a baby girl, she would be born with like a pig's nose. And the only way for the curse to be broken is for her to be loved by one of her own kind. And it's just a goofy, fun time. James McAvoy, good time. The guy who's playing the villain, redonkulous. I think that he just makes faces and people are like, you're hired. Just do that the whole movie, okay? It's a good moment, and like, not only do you have this element of like, what's a monster, what's not, what's beauty, what's not, you also have a scene that takes place at Halloween. So, boom, nailed it. Number 2, The Little Vampire. I'm actually planning on rewatching this soon. I got the DVD last year and I'm super excited. We have that kid from Stuart Little, and he and his family moved to Scotland and he gets bullied and it sucks, but then he meets this boy vampire and his family and things get fun. Things get fun. It's a good ass time. There's vampire cows. Like, I don't even remember the majority of it other than just, it was so good. It was just such a moment. It was always on ABC Family too. So I've rewatched it who knows how many times. But now I get to choose when I rewatch it because I own the DVD. Ha ha ha. Number 3, Mr. Fantastic Fox. This is is it animated? I don't know. Is it stop motion? I don't know. It's something. It's something. It's a Wes Anderson movie where George Clooney is the voice of a fox that likes to steal shit. And it's that fun Wes Anderson quirkiness, just ridiculous. And I think it's based off of Roald Dahl's book, but it's just a moment. It's a vibe. It feels of the style of like books we might have grown up with as children. And so it just feels very nostalgic and homey. Last but not least, What We Do in the Shadows. The movie, no shade on the TV show, but I like the movie better. This is a Taika Waititi film that he also stars at, and it's goofy ass vampires trying to finagle and like live their lives in modern day, and it's got that really fun, slightly awkward humor that Taika is known for that is very New Zealand-esque. From my understanding, you got werewolves, you got different types of vampires based off of like the time period that they grew up in before they returned, and highly recommend if you haven't seen it. And then to round it off, we got 2 items that I just really dig and are so good for this time of year. The first is the brand Ohm has a hot chocolate. Very good, very soothing, very tasty, very relaxing, very, very, very recommended. It's yum, yum, yum. It's vegan, which I appreciate. And it also has like mushroom adaptogens. So it's good for your brain too. And I don't think it has a ton of sugar in it. It's a beverage you can indulge in without being anxious about, and it helps with your anxiety. And then there's a computer game I've been loving and playing called Ooblets. It's redonkulous. It's very much hipster vibes, and they add seasonal challenges. So they have a Halloween-y kind of a theme challenge right now. And it's kind of like Pokemon plus dance battles. I'm running around collecting them, and some of them are shiny. And at level 10, they can drive their own cars. And it's stupid. It's stupid in the best way, and you should check it out. And on that note, that will be it for me today. Let me know what's in your autumnal starter pack. I would love to add to my collection of traditions and rituals and just fun little stuff to make this season even better. Thank you to Sunny for supplying me, sorry hedgehog, with the autumnal decor, because I didn't have any and I was poor. And I will see you next time. So like and subscribe, and goodbye.